This video provides an overview of our change submittal. The particular template shown here is for ACI Committee 318, but this can be used for any of the code committees. I'll give you a highlight for each of the areas. It's described well in the change submittal template itself. A change submittal is another name for how you develop your ballot. So if I look at this one, a couple things to note. This is going to give you your committee information. This is the submittal number, and that is detailed here. And of course, the date. So in this instance, the submittal number, C stands for change proposal. The X in this case would be your subcommittee name. So if this was subcommittee A, that would be A. If you don't have a subcommittee, this can be either left out or your committee chair and secretary will decide how that term is used. The Z's here represent the number, so that number will be assigned by your subcommittee chair. And then finally, the I represents the number of ballot you're on. So if this is the first ballot, it's A. Each succeeding ballot will move through the alphabet. So the second one's B and so on. You're going to have a brief title. You're going to let us know what code or commentary provision is affected by this particular submittal. And of course, what's the reason for the change? In this particular section, you're just looking for a one-sentence descriptive, a high-level description, and the bulk of the rest of this will go into another section. This first page also contains your ballot history. So this is the first ballot in subcommittee. This would not have any of the information. It would just simply say this is the first ballot. After that, you need to document each of the ballots, and the information provided here can be taken from the committee website where the ballot summary is, and it also will provide you, or you also should provide how any negative votes were resolved during the process. And this information and documentation is very helpful for the voter because it lets them see if the concern they may have has already been addressed and if they're comfortable with how that was addressed in previous ballots. All right. Next, this is the meat of a lot of the background. So here's where we have just general supplemental information. If there is any implications for design calculations, you need to have appropriate examples to illustrate those effects. So this is required for those types of changes. We also need a brief description of how you envision this proposed change might impact constructability of concrete building structures in this case. And then finally, you can put all the additional information for this portion into the appendix so that we have the main ballot item or change proposal item along with the appendix of supplementary material that the voters need. Okay, now we actually get to the change proposal itself. And this paragraph is very important for the person preparing this ballot and for those evaluating it as a voter. So the changes to the actual code or commentary are shown in traditional single strikeout with that for the deleted material and then an underline for the new material. This needs to be done manually. In other words, don't use the automatic or track features, automatic track changes feature of Word. So you're going to go into the font and actually put in a strike through font, etc. Okay, so you need to do that manually. Likewise, this goes through how you track for the final version and resolutions, and those are shown with the double strike through, double underline, and then this yellow highlighting. So just look at this carefully for each section or each type of change you're going to be making, and this goes through, do your changes in 12-point font, 1.5 line spacing. This keeps everything similar for the different ballots and helps the voter out with this process. Now, this also goes through how we present the actual change proposal in 10-line blocks. So what you'll have is for your change proposal, each set of 10 or less lines is put into a block. Okay, you can have more than 10. In reality, what we want to do is, let's say I have a couple lines of text here, just 2 lines. This will be in 10. When I move to the next part of the change, go ahead and just move up to 20. This allows us additional lines for any changes that are made during the different balloting stages. If you have a section that is more than 10 lines or getting close to 10 lines, you can allow yourself 2 sets of 10. So in other words, this one was longer, and so I went ahead and bumped up to 40 for the next one. The voters will respond. So let's say I have a comment on this line here. This is line 20, this is line 21, 22, and that's the line number I'll put in my ballot response. And that is covered in a second video that shows the voter response templates. So this is an overview of the change proposals. If you have any questions at all, reach out to your committee secretary or one of the ACI engineering staff who would be listed as liaison for your committee.